All right, so with no further ado, let's move to an introduction of LAMILUX. LAMILUX is a patron sponsor of the Passive House Accelerator, so a big thank you to you all at LAMILUX for your support of our work. LAMILUX has generations of experience to build from as a manufacturer of high quality skylights for nearly 70 years. Optimizing the use of natural light in high performance buildings is essential to occupant health and wellness. From roof light domes, flat roof windows, and continuous roof lights to massive glass roof constructions in aesthetically pleasing shapes, LAMILUX solutions offer exceptional attention to detail while addressing the needs of the Passive House standard. This presentation looks at the designs and details of LAMILUX daylight systems that provide exceptional performance, as well as Passive House project examples from around the world to show attendees what is possible when designing with daylight in mind. And we are joined by Andreas Leupold, LAMILUX's Key Account Manager International, and Jeremy Latriano, 475's Daylighting Product Consultant. So with that, please take it away.
Great, thank you, Zach. Appreciate the introduction, and thanks everyone for making the time to join us for this presentation here this afternoon. As Zach mentioned, I'm here along with my German colleague, Andreas Leupold, who has agreed to work late for us this evening to make some time to teach us a little bit about LAMILUX and some Passive House applications. I myself, as Zach mentioned, work for 475 High Performance Building Supply, and I am based out of Brooklyn, New York, not too far from our company headquarters. But I am a LAMILUX product consultant, so I am the primary point of contact for any LAMILUX related questions or product support that is needed for projects in the US and Canada for the entire footprint of our company. So Andreas here is going to give us a quick introduction to LAMILUX, a little bit of background about the company itself, and a little bit of information about the glass roof systems and skylights that they supply that are most suitable for Passive House projects. Then I'll join in later in the presentation and talk a little bit about our partnership and some of the work that we do here in the US and Canada. So I'll kick it over to you, Andreas. You can go ahead and start us off.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Zach, thank you very much for the very warm words, for the very nice introduction. So I hope everybody can hear me loud and clear. So I hope everybody can see the presentation. Other than that, it's a very big pleasure for getting some time introducing LAMILUX, especially the main content, the PR60, so a transom mullion glass system, which is developed by LAMILUX itself. First of all, I would like to introduce myself a little bit. Second, to share some company information. As a third thing, some general facts about the PR60. As a first visual aspect, a video of a project we have done in Australia together with our partner over there. Finally, of course, some technical details about the PR60, and not at least some references, so some projects we realized in the US and in some other countries. And last but not least, as Zach mentioned, of course, we can answer hopefully some of your questions. So as I said, I'm Andreas. I'm with LAMILUX since 14 years. So I started my apprenticeship over there, moved to the export department in 2011, and became the international key account manager 3 years ago. And I have the big pleasure taking care of my colleague and friend Jeremy from 475 since more over 7 years. My partner in Australia and I personally take care for the bigger glass projects in Luxembourg, because there's a big need of PR60, and not at least, of course, to all over the world where a skylight is needed. Finally, the US and Australia is creating enough work, so it's hard to find some other time. Some words about LAMILUX. So it's a family-owned business in the third generation. So it was founded 1909. And right now, Mrs. and Mr. Dr. Strunz Senior are retiring within the next couple of years, and the son Alexander and the daughter Johanna has taken over in 2019. So we have around about 1,500 employees. Last year, we did a turnover of over 300 million euros and growing steadily from time to time. As Zach mentioned, we have all products which are needed on a flat roof, beginning from a skylight dome, barrel walled roof lights, and not at least also modular skylights and the PR60 system as a custom-made solution system. So starting about some general facts, of course, obviously the PR60 is a very energy efficient system and a visual appealing transom mullion glass system. The most important thing to know is that this PR60, which is a German shortcut for transom mullion, and the 60 is staying for the visible view from underneath 60 millimeters. So that's the profile width. At least, of course, you can combine the system with any type of glass paints, double, triple, and even quadruple. By having a passive house energy project, we always have to use a triple or at least a quadruple glass. At least the system is tested up to a roof pitch from 2 degrees. And finally, it's a custom-made system which is completely designed, developed. The manufacturing is taking place in our headquarters in Germany. So finally, of course, a made in Germany product at all. And to show you the project in Australia, starting with some nice visual things before speaking about the details. Zach, can you please share the video?
Yes, just a moment here.
Section of our PR60 system. So for the third time, for flat roof installations, as I said, any kind of design is possible, beginning from a flat skylight with a very shallow pitch of 2 degrees up to 90 degrees. And what I mean with 90 degrees is having, for example, a glass gable, if we're speaking about a double pitch skylight. So not working in the facade only, of course, is if a vertical part is included in the skylight. In general, as I said, a double, a triple, and even a quadruple layer glass is possible. Finally, the biggest advantage and USP is the water management, which is done within a continuous gasket. It doesn't matter how many joints of the big rafters you have. On the top, we are working with a clamping system, so either with a hidden or a visible screw. As I said, the visible part from underneath is 60 millimeters, and of course the height, so the depth, depends on the glass weight, on the snow load, and a couple of technical issues, of course. Finally, the smallest height is 80 millimeters, and the biggest profile which is available is 250 millimeters in depth. And to give a rough number, this aluminum system can be self-spanning over roughly 6 meters. As I said, of course, depending a little bit on some technical issues like snow loads and some other stuff. So the most important thing, as I said, the water management is done within a transom and a mullion gasket. Finally, we are differing between the roof pitch of the skylight itself. So not at least, of course, we have two different gaskets, a 16 and an 8 mil gasket. Depending on shallow pitches, of course, we are using the higher one. And as soon as the pitch is 15 degrees or more, we are using the gasket, which is only like 8 millimeters, because that's totally enough. The transom and the mullion gasket will be notched out, of course, where the transom and the mullion is joining together, as you can probably see it on the screen. And not at least, we are using a special glue which comes in between the gasket to avoid any water infiltration, of course. To differ between the PR60 and the certified PR60 passive house system, at least the profiles, the clamping rails, and everything is completely the same. So that means even our normal PR60, so without having the certified system, is nearly according to the passive house standards. The biggest difference between the normal and the certified one is the spacer within the glass. And at least, of course, that's not up to LAMILUX, because we are buying the glass from a couple of suppliers. And of course, the Passive House Institute is telling the argon, so the filling inside the spacer, and not at least the the black insulation core needs a special thickness and a special height. But from a visual aspect, the client or the customer would not realize if it's a PR60 or one with a official certificate from the Passive House Institute here in Germany in Darmstadt. Finally, and that's another big difference and advantage of the PR60 system, everything keeps inside LAMILUX, or at least, of course, within the partners business. But we are doing the analysis, the planning, the technical clearance. So what I would like to say is, from the very first contact until the last screw, even the technical drawings, the production is happening within LAMILUX, and at least, of course, in coordination with 475 in the US. So we are not only selling our profile to anybody else as a kind of a supplier of aluminum profiles, so also the cutting or whatever is possible to do in Reau is done here, and not at least if Corona and hopefully Europeans are allowed to come to the US once again. Normally, we are sending a supervisor, which is employed by LAMILUX, directly to the construction sites, who's taking care and looking after the installation, supporting 475 installers, and at least making sure that even a very good system, of course, is also working properly after it's finally installed, because that's the most important thing. You can do a good planning, you can make a good design, but finally, of course, installation is a very important thing. And that's also one philosophy of the company, and at least, of course, also from 475 and myself. we are only happy if the customer is happy. So it makes absolutely sense to send out the supervisor, and normally that's what we're doing. As I said a couple of minutes earlier, the span of the aluminum system is up to roughly 6 meters. Finally, of course, there are projects with some much bigger skylights, which means our system needs a primary support. Doesn't matter if it's a steel or, as you could saw at the very beginning, made of timber, concrete. So only a structural support where we can sit onto. Finally, also regarding this one, the design is completely free if you have an IPE or box section, or how wide the timber is. We will see it later if we're having a look to the connection details. So at least nearly everything is possible with every design as soon as we have a support when the dimension is greater than the 6 meters. Finally, we can also install a ventilation flap. Doesn't matter if you choose a spindle motor or a chain drive, of course, which looks much nicer from the inside. So our flap is integrated in the same way like the glass pane, which is sitting next to the flap. At least in Germany, we can also, or in Europe, we can use this flap as a EN certified smoke vent flap. So for achieving a specified aerodynamical free area. Other than that, the flap is also available in roughly 1.5 to 3 meters for daily ventilation with a tandem drive. So also very flexible to get some fresh air and not only light into the building. Another big advantage is that our Pier 60 system can be installed to any kind of support, any kind of substructure. Doesn't matter if it's concrete, steel, timber. Finally, also LAMILUX, of course, is able to deliver a steel upstand in combination to the system, which is connecting together. Also, the width of the substructure is not really relevant, so we are making no difference between a width of 150 or 300. Finally, and that's what I said, for each of a Pier 60 project which takes place with LAMILUX, we are defining one technician who's only taking care of all these details and adjusting the approval drawing as long as it's 100% perfect and working together. So absolutely flexible. Also, when the substructure is already there, we can definitely find a solution to sit onto. This is the picture from the very beginning, a skylight which is roughly 9 by 9 meter. As you can see, a double pitch skylight with a very shallow pitch of 5 degrees. At least the substructure was built by the contractor, and LAMILUX was, of course, taking over the design of the timber substructure and only fitting a small supporting profile, but then all the rest, of course, the insulation core, the clamping rail, and everything, the pressure plate and everything was by LAMILUX.
Oh yeah.
Finally, the system, of course, can also take some components like an external or an internal shading system with some lamellas. At least, of course, any type of glass, for example, with an integrated roller blinder, sun protection, a heat protection glass, absolutely possible. So also some anchor points for the maintenance guy to hook up. So as soon as we are involved in the design, of course, everything can be integrated within the design stage. For example, to make it limited walkable. So as soon as you have a bigger one to reach the middle pane, for example, so that you can have a working load of 150 kilogram per square meter for a person able to clean the glass panes. Finally, I would like to go some projects I realized within my time at LAMILUX. I would like to start with, in my personal opinion, the nicest and not at least, of course, also the biggest one. It was for the new office building of the Post in Luxembourg, and the skylight was also a double pitch skylight, and probably you can recognize it on the picture that LAMILUX was also responsible for the vertical part, but as I said, connected to our skylight. So this one was roughly 25 by 27 meters. And the primary support, so the steel beams were provided by a Luxembourg company. All the rest, and also the vertical part, the glass louvers in the gable side for having a smoke and heat exhaust plus daily ventilation, was also by LAMILUX. So not even a flap or a glass pane can be installed. This was my first project in Luxembourg 2015. Of course, with a triple layer glass, a very special one, as I said, for being limited walkable. So 60-30, so a light transmission of 60, G factor of 30%, UG value, of course, also 0.6. Same for the glass lamellas in the vertical part. This was a smaller one, but we would like to share also what is possible for private buildings. So this was a show home in United Kingdom. It was a monopitch skylight with 3 glass panes over the living and dining room. So this is the technical drawing of the skylight. As you can see, the connection to a timber substructure, and with 3 glass panes, also with a sun protection glass to avoid overheating in the summer. This was the biggest passive house project in the former times in the UK, University of Leicester. LAMILUX got the chance to deliver 2 of these 9 by 15 meter skylights, also with a vertical part. And not at least, we included some PR60 flaps in the vertical part connected to a chain drive for daily ventilation. Probably you can see it all over the surface on the top. We have installed a shading system with a textile. So finally, any kind of supplier can install something on top as soon as we do the preparation underneath. That's the technical drawing of this one. So the glass division, steel beams, because 9 meters, so not possible to make it as self-spanning. Another project in the UK, so some monopitch skylight. The small challenge was the kind of design and the shallow pitch of 2 degrees in both directions. So was for a university in Sheffield some years ago. According the technical drawing, so with the kind of funny shaped skylights. Another one in the UK, Riverside Studios in London. So it was roughly 9 by 21 meter skylight with a kind of a round or roundish shape at one end. So finally, also the PR60 profiles can be bended in a round shape. At least, of course, glass is also no problem with a round shape. As you can also see it, they have some hangings, so some internal shading. On the left picture, at least, of course, also a steel substructure because of the big span of 9 meters. And due to the blue color of the glass, also a special sun protection glass. the technical drawing, as you can see, one big steel beam dividing the 9 meters so that we can span over 4.5, supported by the steel beam, and another 4.5. The Penrose College, outstanding project we realized last year in Australia. Two ventilation flaps connected to a 24-volt chain drive. The span was roughly 6 meters. So what I mean with self-spanning and primary support necessary is, as we can see, we have a flat skylight, so a monopitch skylight, and the profile was even for this one 250 millimeter in the height. And finally, we had to include some steel components in the PR60 to make it solid enough to do the span over 6 meters, because we had to struggle with some very, very high wind loads here for this project. The top view, so the technical drawing, connection on the right side. So everything above the sealed curb is by LAMILUX, insulation, EPDM, the outer, the insulation, the flashing on the outside. So then even the two performances can be divided by the roofer and by LAMILUX. Another one in Luxembourg. On the right side, you can see the big steel beams as a primary support. Finally, of course, the challenge was the funny shape and the corners. And also in the middle, we have some ventilation flaps. Probably you can recognize these round parts which are connected to the steel beam. In total, we have 3 of them. Also, this was within the LAMILUX performance. And this is a kind of a winding where you can hang up some decoration. So right now, in the Christmas time, they are decorating or hanging a Christmas tree on top of this component. And inside this component is a chain which can be lifted up 15 meters, and then of course can drive in the closed position too, to have the decoration uplifted. The top view, so the technical drawing, the big lines are the steel beams, and in the other direction is the PR60, so that we are also supporting on the 5 beams underneath. Also, triple layer glass. At least we are always using a toughened on the outside, and of course we have to use a laminated on the inside. Finally, all the glass panes are proofed against falling through according to some European tests. Another and the last project I would like to present, which was also a PR60 project in the UK for a monopitch skylight, like 30 meters long, width of 2.5, I think. So this is nothing very specific, but of course with a triple layer glass achieving passive house standard, nothing more to add, I think. So finally, Zach, would you have the pleasure and show the last video before we are looking forward to the questions, or I think at least Jeremy's presentation?
Yes, absolutely. All right, let me bring this up. Nice.
Thanks a lot. So last thing I can add from my side is thanks for your attention, and hopefully you get a first impression of LAMILUX, of myself, and not at least the PR60 system. So thanks a lot. And finally, I think it's a big pleasure to take over to 475 to Jeremy.
Yes, thanks, Andreas. Appreciate the introduction here. As Andreas mentioned, I work for 475 High Performance Building Supply. For those of you that are unfamiliar, 475 is an e-commerce business based out of Brooklyn that supplies building materials to the US and Canada that are meant to facilitate low energy, high performance, passive house style construction. In addition to building materials, we also are a great resource for knowledge materials. Our blog is also great resource for passive house knowledge, and we have a smart enclosure series that has ebooks and CAD details featuring assemblies for passive house construction. But today we're here to talk primarily about the LAMILUX Skylights, which we supply. We've been working with LAMILUX, as Andreas said, for about 7 years to bring their unit skylights and glass roof systems, as well as their roof access solutions to the US and Canada. And like all the partners that we work with at 475, we were really trying to look at the market, the high performance market in general, and see what the market is missing. In this case, we felt that it was missing a good resource for flat roof, low pitch roof, and custom daylighting solutions. So we partner with LAMILUX to try and fill that gap in the market. And we are a good match for one another because while we have a lot of connections in the US and Canada to passive house and low energy building professionals, LAMILUX is able to supply solutions for that type of construction through their various skylight systems, solutions that are suitable for high performance construction and also for passive house certification. So we supply most of the solutions that LAMILUX manufactures, and we separate these solutions into 3 product categories. The roof glazing systems, which Andreas talked about previously, that's the PR60 and the PR60 passive house, which of course is the PHI certified PR60 glass roof system. We also supply flat roof unit skylights, which I'll talk about in a little bit, essentially pre-assembled skylights, pre-glazed that arrive to the site for plug and play installation, available with a variety of custom options and PHI certification. And then we also supply the roof access solutions, which I won't talk about as much today, but is another thing that we have available through LAMILUX. So talking a little bit about our partnership with LAMILUX and what we offer. LAMILUX is the manufacturer, they are the supplier, but we do offer a variety of different services and supports for building professionals that we work with here in the US and Canada, starting with design development and shop drawings. Early on in the project, I'm often speaking with designers and architects, ensuring that they are preparing their drawing set and integrating the PR60 early on. Obviously, integrating elements as early as possible in a passive house design is really critical to ensuring that we are allowing for the kind of performance that we're going to need eventually during construction. So happy to sort of work with designers, architects to help them develop the details for these glass roof systems, which you know can be technically a little bit challenging. And once an order is placed, we're providing a full set of shop drawings, working with, again, the architect and the builder to make sure that all of the information we need is specified accurately, and then passing that information along to LAMILUX, Andreas, and our other colleagues, Summit, where they can then use that information to create shop drawings, such as what you see here, which will feature drawings of all connections to the existing structure from the PR60, as well as plan views, interior views, whatever else is needed. And one thing that Andreas mentioned a couple of times, but I just want to reiterate, is that we require the builder to construct the site built upstand or substructure for the PR60 and insulate and flash that structure. Then the PR60 is going to take into account everything needed above that structure, including connections to that structure and thermal and airtight connections to that structure. So we're really ensuring that we're going to have all of our control layers integrated seamlessly into the PR60 skylight from the structure, ensuring that we're going to get the kind of performance that we need for passive house certification. In addition, then 475 is also coordinating delivery. So we are working with our freight forwarders to bring these materials from Europe, from Germany, the manufacturer, to our warehouse, typically in New Jersey, where it's unloaded and then put on a smaller truck for delivery to the job site, wherever that will be in the US and Canada. In addition, as Andreas mentioned, we can also provide installation representation, installation services through a experienced German installer who would travel to the job site for the duration of the installation. More recently, since we haven't been able to get our German installer to the US, we have a domestic representative who has been servicing these projects. And we also have begun working with a subcontractor to provide full installation services. So 475 can provide support in a variety of different ways for these sort of projects. In addition, we supply building control and automation systems through a company called WindowMaster. So although these systems are German and sometimes they do present technical challenges, particularly for electrical systems, we can provide a variety of UL listed and sort of compatible components for simple integration of skylight systems. So Andreas talked a lot about the PR60 glass roofs. I also want to talk briefly about the FE unit skylights. These skylights are, as I mentioned, pre-assembled. They're available in standard sizes, in which case they're prefabricated with an insulated curb from the manufacturer, or in custom sizes up to about 9 feet in length, in which case they are manufactured with a conversion adapter for attachment to a site-built curb. These skylights do feature a thermally continuous and airtight assembly. So you can see from this section, we have triple layer insulated glass, EPS insulated aluminum profile, and then the option for the insulated curb, which gives us a nice thermal separation as shown in this image on the right. Although these skylights are not PHI certified, they are Passive House compliant, meaning that they can be used in many climates for Passive House certification on new construction and metric-based EnerFit construction. So we have seen them utilized in Passive House certified projects before, although they are primarily used and installed on roofs up to about 612. So we're talking about low pitch applications. In addition to the FE, we also do have a PHI certified unit skylight, the FE Passive House. Very similar assembly, but it has a thicker frame, more insulation with total elimination of thermal bridges, as well as a lower UG value. So for those EnerFit projects that do require Passive House certified component, or for a project in a particularly cold climate, this is also a solution that we have available, again, with only available in this case with an insulated curb in standard sizes. In addition to the FE certified or the PHI certified FE Passive House, we also have a variety of other options available: integrated 3-degree pitch or pyramid skylights, as well as circular skylights and roof access skylights. These skylights can also be made operable for ventilation purposes through a variety of different hardwares. And we also can integrate shading at the interior or the exterior with options for motorized or fixed shading components. A couple of project examples. This is a Barry Price design project in Ankrum, New York, Passive House certified, featuring 2 FE Passive House skylights at the roof. Here you can really see how simple it is to integrate these skylights and even run the metal flashing up the side of the curb for a nice seamless install there. Another project, this one in Vancouver, which featured several operable Passive House certified skylights over a daycare. In an urban setting, this project featured, I believe 6 skylights, each of which was made operable for ventilation purposes. And this is designed by Acted Austria. So I'm not going to talk too much about the PR60 since I think Andreas did a really good job of giving us the details. Just to give some imperial translations of some of the things he was talking about. This system can be self-spanning up to about 6 meters or about 20 feet. The profiles are 60 millimeters wide, or about 2 3/8 inch. And the glass fields can be customized in size up to about 6'6" or 10 foot, 6 foot by 6 foot or 10 foot by 3 foot. It's a thermally broken system. So in addition to the triple layer insulated glass, you also have this thermal break in the profile, a little bit of foam insulation, which is providing thermal protection, thermal continuity throughout the skylight. In addition, included as part of all PR60 systems are the connections to the existing structure, which include thermal connections and airtight connections. So we're ensuring that this is integrated seamlessly into our control layers. A few Passive House projects that utilize the PR60. This one's in the Bronx, New York. It's the Woodlawn Senior Center, designed by Castrucci Architects, Passive House certified senior center, one of the first of its kind in the US. This utilized a large monopitch PR60 glass roof over subgrade social space. Here you can see it over the entryway, featuring 5 glass fields, each of varying in sizes, in sort of a trapezoid shape with a wall mount detail connection to the existing structure on one side, and then support from beneath on the other. 37 Sydney, this is a residential project in Brooklyn, New York, designed by Bax Ingry, which featured a large Passive House certified PR60 over the top floor. In addition to the PR60 passive house, it also featured several FE passive house skylights, which you can see here in this image in the bottom left. So lots of natural light being brought in thanks to these passive house certified solutions. Smaller PR60, but just again showing the flexibility of the system. This passive house project is in Connecticut, Lake Warramog residence. It's not only passive house, it's also net zero, and I believe also realized especially low embodied carbon through design. Designed by Open Construction, it featured this ridge PR60 over the secondary structure on the property, which also featured fritted glass for light reduction. Not a passive house project, but this is another one that we're proud of here at home in Brooklyn, New York. This was over a photographer studio designed by Loading Dock 5. One of the largest systems we've done. It featured not only a low pitch glass roof, but also integration with this glass facade, including operable ventilator flap. Again, not a passive house project, but a high performance system nonetheless. This ridge skylight, or actually there were 3 ridge skylights installed over this residence in Niswa, Minnesota. You can see that it was integrated to kind of connect with this timber structure beneath to conceal some of the aluminum profiles. This project is actually in Manhattan, not Brooklyn, but it's over a gallery space on 21st Street, featuring 2 skylights. The one shown here featured 4 ventilators flaps with not only the hip skylight, but also the glass gables supplied by LAMILUX. In Toronto, we also supplied to Canada. This wasn't a passive house project, but it features 2 PRCs, one over either side of this interior partition wall, each over a stairwell in a condominium setting. And that's all I have for you guys. Thanks again for making the time. We'll open it up now for questions if you have anything regarding these PR60, FE, LAMILUX, skylights, and glass roof systems that we supply, or questions for me in general about our process. Happy to stick around and answer those.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks, Jeremy and Andreas, for this fantastic rundown of LAMILUX and the PR60 and FE skylights. It's really awesome, and we do have some questions. I wanted to start with and you've touched on this in your presentation, but if you wouldn't mind sharing some of the key things, just like a summary of the key things that designers should be thinking about when they're detailing the integration of PR60 and or FE into their passive house envelopes. What are some key moves that they need to be thinking about as they prepare for that?
I think the big thing from our perspective is that we want the architect builder preparing the substructure so that it will be insulated and flashed, as well as air sealed, and then allowing for connection of the skylight control layers to that structure. So for example, with the FE, we would want to see a probably insulated cavity that would support our skylight, and then allowing the skylight to connect down to an insulated cavity would ensure thermal continuity. If that cavity also featured an exterior air membrane, we could then ensure that our airtight skylight is also connecting to that membrane. With the PR60, we have some components that are actually allowing that connection to be made, and we're going to be bringing in our own insulation and airtight layer, but just ensuring that the control layers in the substructure are accessible and are able to be made continuous with the skylight itself. I think are the biggest things.
Awesome, thank you. So, and then Mark Willie is here. He's co-host of Construction Tech, and episode 1 of Construction Tech actually featured that project that you mentioned by Backstingui. So Mark, did you have any thoughts or impressions you want to share before we dive into questions?
Well, thoughts and impressions could go on for days. I'm enamored by the performance of the product and the look of the product. There's not a level of detail that's missed out. So I'm really going to stutter. So I'm not going to speak any further. It is incredible. And the best part I had is early on, when you pointed out the analysis, the preliminary planning, the production, and the installation, when you group that all together, that was such a quality and value-added discussion that all can learn from. So continued success to the company and all the folks that enjoy your product.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. All right, let's dive into questions. So I didn't put the queue up, but Laura Squalache, who from Green Hammer, who is going to be presenting at the showcase next Wednesday, has a question for you. So Laura, can we start with you?
Oh, yeah, sure. I heard you say that at least the PR60 system comes in double, triple, and quadruple. I'm assuming also the FE system does too. And I'm just wondering if you guys could summarize the R values that we could kind of generally associate with those three options.
Yeah, definitely. So we were typically be working with U value, but to give you a sense, double glaze, the R value of the glazing is going to be about R5. Triple glaze is going to be about R8. Quadruple glaze is going to be about R10. And again, that's the R value of the glass.
Thanks for converting it. I recognize that it's typically done in use, so thanks for doing that.
No worries, yeah.
Great. Thank you, Laura. Up next is Jim Campbell, and you had Jim. You had a number of questions. So let's why don't we start with one of them, then we'll go to Manny, and then we'll come back to you. Oh, Jim says you can read them. Okay, that works. All right. So the first question is: does LAMILUX provide any details or products to ensure that the curbs projecting above the roof insulation meet or exceed the thermal value of the skylight?
So I guess LAMILUX does, for particularly the unit skylights, supply an insulated curb, and that insulated curb is available in a variety of different heights, depending on the thickness of the insulation in the roof layer. That insulated curb, I believe that the U value of the glazing itself, the U value of the glazing itself is lower than the U value of the insulated curb, but it's still providing insulated surface, which is connected continuously, which does provide a continuous thermal connection to the skylight itself. So as long as you're getting that thermal connection from the roof to the curb, you're ensuring that the skylight installation will be thermally continuous. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, did that do it for you, Jim? Jim has no mic, so we're communicating via chat.
No worries.
Good question. Okay, so I'll move on to Manny. Manny Grual, are you there? And you have can you come on and ask your question?
Yeah, so my question was, like, in a lot of projects I have used solar tubes with the skylights. So I just wanted to know if you make solar tubes also, like in a circular form for small places to get a natural light.
We do not supply solar tubes, but we do supply circular skylights. Obviously not suitable for all solar tube applications, but they could be for projects or for, I guess, spaces that share a ceiling with the roof.
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Manny. Okay, so another one from Jim. Are the circular skylights we've seen on the LAMILUX website available in Canada? And if so, any idea of ballpark costs?
Ballpark costs, the classic question. So yes,
right.
the circular skylights are available in Canada. They are also FE circular skylights. They feature a very similar assembly to which I showed earlier in the presentation. Cost is difficult to estimate because there is such a variety of available sizes, from about 3 feet in diameter to about 8 feet in diameter. But if there's a specific size they're looking for, feel free to get in touch. I'm definitely happy to provide pricing information. To give you a sense, it's going to vary between about $3,000 and about $10,000 based on those available sizes.
Great, thank you. And will 475 provide fixed pre-assembled units?
475 will absolutely supply fixed pre-assembled units. All FE skylights are available as either fixed or operable. Skylights from Germany require a lead time of about 15 weeks for the FE system, or about 25 weeks for the PR60 system. However, we do stock some FE sizes fixed skylights in our inventory. We have 3 sizes available there: about 29 by 29 inch, 29 by 41 inch, and 33 by 53 inch. So in some cases, we can supply skylights from our inventory with lead time closer to 2 to 3 days.
Great, thanks, Jeremy. So I have a question for Andreas. I was really surprised and impressed by the size of the operation. And I'm curious about where you're seeing the most growth, and is that tied to growth in passive house construction? I'm just it's you have a unique and different view of the industry than I think we do here in North America. And I'd be curious to hear about that.
So thanks a lot for the question. At least, of course, I can mostly speak about Europe, or at least as a good example, the Luxembourg market. Finally, if you are within the planner, the consultant, or the architect, for being absolutely honest, you have a good chance that the PR60 or the passive house certified product will be installed, because finally, of course, the contractor, if it comes up to the end, would like to save some money. So if I'm coming in a late stage and would like to, of course, explain and point out the advantages of a certified system, if it comes to the price, of course, the contractors are mainly, not always, but mainly sticking back to the cheaper system. The experience, if I'm in the early on the first stage, yeah, absolutely. Of course, thermal efficiency is a big point, a really big point. Yeah. So what I recognized is that probably only 1 of 10 projects here in Europe, or what I have, is with a double layer glass. So the standard here is nearly a triple layer insulated glass with a middle pane and 2 spacers. So I have less projects with a IGU, with a double layer glass.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you. It's really interesting. Laura, you have another question. Please pose it.
Oh, yeah. I was just wondering if you have any EPDs or HPDs for any of your products yet.
I believe that LAMILUX does have environmental product declarations for all the products that we discussed today. I'm not certain that they're available on the 475 website. They are for certain available on the LAMILUX website.
At least if I have understood the question correctly, yes, LAMILUX has some European product declarations. So depending, of course, on the project, we are flexible with all the spare components, also with the insulation and these things. So finally, we can provide a kind of a lifetime circle, so a BREEAM or a LEED certification, which is common here in Europe. So if that was the question, so then yes, we have some of these analysis available for the PR60 and for this modular skylights as well.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Awesome. So Sasha, you're up next.
That's the question. Just what's the biggest span or the largest skylight that you guys installed and designed in Europe or North America or wherever worldwide, and to passive house standard? And then the next one is just what's your normal warranty on the work?
Andreas, I think that's a good question for you. What's the largest?
Yeah. I was thinking which one was the biggest, because of course not all the skylights are like square, so I can say it's a 20 by 20 meter, but as I said, the skylight, the double pitch one in Luxembourg, which I personally realized was 25 by 27 meters, including the vertical parts, the special glazing, the installation, and only to give you, and that's of course only a rough figure indication, this was a 600,000 euro project from the beginning to the end, so everything included. Yeah, sorry?
Did that include a structural as well? Because I believe for such large.
No, the steel beams were by the contractor. So the primary support was not even included. It was really only the PR60, but not the steel underneath. So this was nearly the biggest one I have seen also in reality. I think the biggest one was the international campus in Bonn here in Germany, where we installed a skylight with a span of, I think it was 40 meters, Jeremy. It's like 120 feet. Is that correct?
A little more than that even, but yep, give or take.
So this was the biggest one with 120 feet and one continuous steel beam, which was installed by a helicopter. So this was the biggest one, but I have not seen it in the reality, only on pictures.
And the warranty, usually, for German products.
So the warranty for the glazing and the glass roof system, as well as the finishes, is 5 years from substantial completion.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Sasha. And Laura, you're up next.
Sorry. I'm just wondering if they only come in metal frames or if you also do fiberglass, UPVC, wood.
So the PR60 only has aluminum profiles available, or aluminum with steel and reinforcement for larger spans. But you can anchor into the PR60 profile. So we have seen applications where the PR60 profile has been wrapped in sort of a timber construction. Similarly, if you have a sub-construction, as Andreas showed in his presentation, which is timber, steel, concrete, you can greatly reduce the depth of the PR60 profiles and easily conceal them behind some sort of structural member.
Cool, thank you. I think Sasha has another question. Sasha?
Yeah, I'm just wondering on this note from Laura, do you have any like wood optics applications for at least for the interiors, or is it's just aluminum, pure aluminum visual? The coating. Do you do any powder coatings of the systems?
So yes, of course, the standard is a mill finish profile, but normally in 10 of 10 cases, the project will be powder coated. We can even provide this, even any standard RAL color. You can have anodization. We are recommending, for example, a pre-anodization before the powder coating if the project is located like 150 kilometers away from the sea due to the environment, over swimming pools, for example. So yes, any coating is possible, NCS, standard RAL, whatever you like, structure, glossy, semi-gloss, whatever you like.
Do you have imitation of the wood appearance of the structure, for at least from the inside, like looking up to the sky?
Finally, if that's a kind of custom-made powder coating, yeah, we have some coaters, and if they are able to buy the powder and to make the structure, finally, of course, you can put everything on the profile. Yeah.
I'm just making sure because there's a lot of aluminum products like windows applications and doors that do now really push the boundaries of imitation of the wood appearance. Like they look literally, you have to touch it before you feel that's it's a metal, not a wood. So that's why I'm just wondering if there's an appetite or if there's any precedence in the production of those, because I think those are favored by some clients of mine. So that's all.
Okay.
Great, thanks, Sasha. Well, great questions, everyone. I think that we have gotten through them all. And so I want to give a big thank you to Jeremy and Andreas for this fantastic presentation and a questions and answers session. This has really been wonderful. Also, again, a thank you to LAMILUX for its support of the Passive House Accelerator as patron sponsor, and of course to 475 as a founding sponsor of the accelerator. None of this would be happening without support from you all. So thank you very much. And I think with that, we'll close it up. Jim, you have a last minute question. Let's ask it. So Jim Campbell asks, regarding the faux wood finish, I wonder if it is more of a vinyl wrap or similar rather than a powder coat. So let's finish up with this last question, if you wouldn't mind, Andreas and Jeremy.
Yes, I think what Andreas was saying is that if there is a finish that exists, we can most likely use it for this aluminum. Jim, in terms of using like some sort of vinyl or some sort of, I guess, almost like an interior cladding for the PR60 profile, that's certainly something that's possible. Like I mentioned, we can anchor into the aluminum profiles. So if there was some sort of vinyl or wood covering that we wanted to utilize as an alternative aesthetic, that is something that could be achieved.
Excellent. Great follow-up. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Jeremy. Thanks, Andreas. Thank you, everyone. And
Thanks,
have
Zach.
a great week. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Bye.